Welcome to the It's Time to Go to Sleep. Tonight we will follow the journey of a young man named Johan, a journey that begins with loss, moves through silence and courage, and slowly unfolds into wonder, kindness, and quiet magic. Before the story continues, take a slow, deep breath in. Feel the air fill your chest, and now gently breathe out. Allow your shoulders to soften. Let the weight of the day slowly fade away. Close your eyes and listen. Johan sat quietly beside his father's bed. The room was small and almost completely silent. Only the soft flicker of a single candle moved, casting warm shadows on the wooden walls. Outside, the night wind whispered through the trees, but inside, time seemed to stand still. His father lay weak and pale, his breathing slow and uneven. With the little strength he had left, he lifted his hand and motioned for Johan to come closer. "My son," his father whispered, his voice barely more than air. "I do not have much time left." Johan leaned forward, holding his father's hand tightly, afraid that if he let go, the moment would disappear forever. "The world," his father continued softly, "is wide and full of paths you have not yet seen. You must walk them and learn who you are." From beneath his pillow, his father slowly took out a small cloth pouch. Inside it, Johan could hear the faint sound of metal gently touching metal. "This gold," his father said, placing it in Johan's trembling hands, "is my final gift to you. Use it wisely. Let it help you, but never let it change your heart." Johan tried to speak, but his throat tightened. Tears fell silently onto the blanket. His father smiled faintly one last time. Then, with a quiet breath, his eyes slowly closed. And just like that, he was gone. Johan cried until there were no tears left to fall. The next day, beneath a calm sky, Johan buried his father in a small garden just outside the village. It was a place they had often visited together, a place of stories, laughter, and peaceful afternoons. He stood there for a long time, saying nothing, only listening to the wind, only remembering. When the morning sun rose the following day, Johan made a decision. He packed a small bag with a few belongings, the pouch of gold, and one piece of bread. Before leaving, he walked through the empty house one last time, touching the walls, the table, the doorway, committing them to memory. At the edge of the village, Johan stopped. He turned around and looked back. Then, with a steady breath, he stepped forward. The road ahead was long and quiet. Dust rose beneath his feet as he walked, the sun slowly climbing higher in the sky. Inside his bag rested the gold his father had left him, and inside his heart, a mixture of sadness and determination. He passed wide green fields his father once described with wonder. He crossed a small river where they had fished together in happier days. As night slowly fell, the forest grew darker and the air cooler. Johan searched for shelter and eventually found a small, abandoned hut near the edge of the trees. Just as he began to prepare a place to rest, a sound reached his ears. Soft, broken, a quiet sound of someone crying. Johan paused, then gently opened the door. Johan stood still for a moment, listening carefully. The night was quiet, yet the sound was unmistakable, soft sobs carried by the cool forest air. Slowly, he stepped outside the hut. The moonlight revealed an old man lying on the dusty road, his body trembling, one leg twisted painfully beneath him. "Please," the old man whispered, his voice weak and broken. "Help me, young one. I cannot stand." Without hesitation, Johan knelt beside him. He gently lifted the man, careful not to hurt him further, and guided him him into the shelter of the hut. The old man's breathing was shallow, his face lined with exhaustion and age. Johan gave him his last piece of bread, breaking it in half and placing it in the old man's hands. Then, using water from his flask, he cleaned the wound as best he could. He said nothing of sacrifice. He expected nothing in return. When the old man finally lay resting, his eyes heavy with sleep, he looked at Johan with quiet gratitude. "Your kindness," the old man murmured, "will return to you in ways you cannot yet imagine." Johan only smiled softly. That night, as the fire faded and the forest breathed around them, Johan slept with a strange sense of peace. Morning light crept gently into the hut. Birdsong replaced the silence of the night. Johan opened his eyes and found himself alone. The old man was gone. For a brief moment, Johan wondered if he had dreamed the entire encounter. But beside him, resting where the old man had slept, lay a wooden staff. It was smooth, warm to the touch, carved with symbols Johan did not recognize. Next to it lay a small folded note. "Thank you for your kindness, Johan. Carry this staff with you. It will protect you when danger comes. We will meet again in the city." Johan's heart beat a little faster. He did not fully understand, but he felt, deep within him, that this gift was important. Carefully, he picked up the staff and continued his journey. The forest grew denser as he walked. Shadows stretched longer between the trees, and the path narrowed beneath his feet. Suddenly, loud voices shattered the calm. Angry shouts, followed by a cry of pain. Johan pushed through the bushes and saw a young man surrounded by 3 bandits. They moved cruelly, laughing as they closed in. Without time to think, Johan raised the wooden staff. Light burst forth, soft at first, then blindingly bright. The bandits screamed in terror, dropping their weapons and fleeing into the forest as if chased by something unseen. The young man stared in disbelief. "You saved me," he said, his voice trembling. "My name is Andreas. May I travel with you?" Johan nodded, relieved to no longer be alone. Yet as they walked together, Johan noticed Andreas, glancing often at the staff, his gaze thoughtful and unreadable. By nightfall, the road led them to a great city. Dark banners hung from the towers. The streets were empty, the air heavy with sorrow. Inside a small inn, an old innkeeper shared the city's pain. "The princess," he whispered, wiping tears from his eyes. "She has been cursed. Every soul who tried to save her had vanished." Hope had slowly faded from the city's heart. As Johan listened, something stirred within him, soft, persistent, and impossible to ignore. That night, the city slept uneasily. Johan lay on his bed in the small inn, staring at the ceiling while distant wind brushed against the windows. Somewhere beyond the walls, the castle stood silent, heavy with an unseen presence. Sleep eventually found him. In his dreams, a tall tower rose into a dark sky. At its peak stood a young woman, her face pale and filled with sorrow. She reached out, her lips moving without sound, her eyes pleading for help. Johan awoke with his heart beating slowly, yet firmly. The next morning, wrapped in pale sunlight, Johan walked through the quiet streets toward the city's old library. Dusty shelves lined the walls, filled with ancient books and forgotten stories. An elderly scholar listened as Johan asked about the princess. "Her name is Elena," the scholar said, opening a thick, worn book. "She was cursed by a dark sorcerer who desired the kingdom." The scholar's voice lowered. "Her soul is trapped inside a magical mirror, And beware, young man, the sorcerer often hides behind the faces of those you trust most." Johan thanked him and left with a heavy mind. As evening approached, Johan returned to the inn. There, in the dim candlelight, he saw Andreas speaking quietly with a figure who looked strangely familiar, an old man with tired eyes. When Johan stepped closer, the figure faded into the shadows, as if he had never been there. "Who was that?" Johan asked gently. "Just someone from the city," Andreas replied with a calm smile. "Nothing important." Yet something in his tone felt different. That night, Johan made his choice. He remembered his father's words. He remembered the dream. With steady steps, he walked toward the castle beneath the moonlit sky. Andreas followed behind him, silent, his footsteps light. The guards at the gate did not move, did not speak, did not even seem to see them. The wooden staff felt warm in Johan's hands, as if guiding him forward. Inside the gardens, stone statues shifted, their eyes following every step. Each time Johan raised the staff, the statues froze, returning to lifeless stone. At the base of the tower, two massive stone dragons stood watch. Their eyes burned red, smoke curling from their mouths. "This is your first trial," Andreas whispered. "Face it with a pure heart." Johan stepped forward, his breath slow and calm. When he lifted the staff, the dragons did not attack. Instead, they bowed. Their red eyes softened into a golden glow. The tower doors opened silently. Inside, a spiral staircase led upward into darkness. Johan climbed slowly, each step echoing in the silence. At the top, he entered a chamber filled with cold air and moonlight. A large mirror stood at the center. Before it stood Princess Elena, beautiful, motionless, her eyes empty. "Princess Elena," Johan whispered. She did not respond. From within the mirror, a shadow began to move. "You wish to save her," a cold voice echoed. "Then give me your soul." Johan stood firm. "I came with a sincere heart," he said. At that moment, Andreas stepped forward. "Now, Johan," he said softly, "use the staff." Light erupted as Johan struck the mirror. The shadow screamed, the mirror shattered, and the darkness began to fade. The golden light filled the chamber, warm and gentle, washing over every surface. Princess Elena moved for the first time. Her eyes, once empty and distant, now sparkled with life. She blinked slowly, as if waking from a long, terrible dream. Her lips curved into a small, tentative smile. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for freeing me." Johan stepped back, still holding the wooden staff, feeling relief and wonder ripple through him. Beside him, Andreas began to change. The familiar face of the old man appeared, smiling gently. "I am the guardian of the kingdom," he said softly. "I was cursed by the dark sorcerer, forced to wander in this form. But because of your kindness, your pure heart, the curse is broken, and now I can return to my true self." Outside, the city began to stir. Word of the broken curse spread quickly. People poured into the streets, faces lighting up with hope and joy. The darkness that had hung over the city for so long slowly lifted. The king arrived at the tower, his face a mixture of relief and awe. "My daughter, she is safe," he exclaimed, tears glistening in his eyes. "And the hero who saved her. Who are you?" Johan bowed humbly. "I am only a traveler, your majesty. I sought only to do what was right." The king's eyes softened. "You have wisdom far beyond your years," he said. "By the laws of this kingdom, I offer you half of my lands and my daughter's hand in marriage as a reward." Johan shook his head gently. "Your Majesty, I need no throne, no riches. True wealth is not gold or power. It is the happiness we share with others. I wish only to stay here, to help your people in whatever way I can." A quiet murmur of admiration spread through those gathered. Even Princess Elena's smile deepened, warm and understanding. "You have saved me," she said softly, "but you have also shown me what life can truly mean. I would like to know you better." Johan looked at her, feeling a connection that had grown not from titles or wealth, but from trust, courage, and shared purpose. Days passed, and Johan settled into life within the kingdom, not as a ruler, but as a guardian of its people. The old guardian, Andreas, revealed his true story. Once a noble knight betrayed by his own brother, he had been cursed and imprisoned in the form of an old man. But love for the kingdom and patience had kept him waiting for someone worthy. "Your kindness and bravery freed me," he said. "You have learned the final lesson, Johan, that true strength lies in a pure heart, and true courage comes with humility and love." Johan smiled. "Thank you. I have learned that helping others, even in small ways, changes the world in ways we cannot see." Princess Elena often walked with him in the castle gardens, talking quietly and laughing softly. Their friendship, built on respect and understanding, grew with each passing day. The city, once filled with sorrow, flourished once more. The people celebrated their freedom, their hearts lightened by the courage of one young man who acted with no thought of reward. And so the story of Johan ends, not with a throne, not with gold, but with the quiet power of kindness, courage, and a heart willing to act. From a grieving son to a hero of light, Johan's journey reminds us all. Even small acts of goodness can ripple outward, changing destinies and lifting the shadows from those in need. The old guardian, freed at last, watched over the kingdom, a quiet smile on his face, knowing that truth and justice, though they may wait, always endure. Princess Elena and Johan continued their days together, learning from one another, teaching one another, and showing that wealth is measured not in gold or crowns, but in love, trust, and the strength to act for the good of others. Now, let the calm of this story settle within you. Let your breathing slow, your body relax. Think of Johan's courage, the guardian's patience, and the magic that blooms from kindness. And drift into sleep, knowing that goodness, even in small acts, always returns in ways beyond imagination. Good night, and sweet dreams.
you.